illness because your mind is living back there, not right here, right now. And so I just want to say in the outset, it's a journey and it happened in layers. So I'm going to share with you 2 layers it's 3 layers that were massively healing for me on this journey of healing PTSD. Because now I would say I absolutely do not have any PTSD. You can heal. You can. I'm here to tell you can heal. And so I'm just going to give you insight into what that can look like. So first off, you have to kind of know what was the main culprit of my PTSD was when I was 4. When I was 4, I had a very traumatic thing happen to me. I'm not going to go into detail into it because it can be re-traumatizing for people out there who have experienced similar experiences at that very young age. So at 4, your brain is developing. Psychology has determined, or through research, that traumatic events that happen to children under the age of 7 is the most traumatizing and most affecting for the rest of that child's life. And that is because the brain is so malleable and it's being developed. Neural pathways are being created. Your template is being created in those younger years. So it is very, very damaging. And it takes a lot more effort to heal when you become an adult. And so lots of grace for anybody that experienced trauma under 7. Any trauma even above 7, but I'm specifically referring right now to under 7. So just know that if you're out there, hit someone like me up to walk you through some of the exercises that I'm going to share with you that helped me heal from PTSD, and how Mary Magdalene came in and I had a vision with her and she helped me heal. So, but I'm going to get to her. She's towards the end of this. I need to explain sort of why this happens. So at 4, when the event happened to me, I experienced extreme shame. Because at 4, and the personality type that I came in with, I'm someone that goes inward and blames myself. There are some personality types that are more outward blaming. Okay, I'm an inward blaming type of person. I laid it all on me. It was all my fault at 4. So I was this free-spirited, fun, let's do it type of girl. And that's how I was in that moment, not knowing that what I was participating in would create such extreme shame. And I was laughed at. I was humiliated in the moment. And so that was extremely horrible for me. I mean, it's one of my first full memories is this one. When I was 4, feeling absolute, like if I could have run and hid forever, I would have. I felt so humiliated and shameful. So I went from being free-spirited, to I've got to hide, and I've got to hide me, because the reason we do that, and then we move on through life hiding, we never want to feel how bad it felt in that moment ever again. So again, your brain is developed and boom, it just created a template, and it just created a neural pathway that says, if anything ever starts to feel like that, run and hide, or even do nothing to ever cause that to happen again. And you can also describe this neural pathway that was created within as a wounded inner child, a wounded ego. Because in that moment, my greatest, most painful wounded inner child was created. And then she, not true me, she ran my life. The wounded inner child ran my life. I went to school and I didn't say a word. That wasn't me. That was my wounded inner child. She was afraid to be seen, because if she'd be seen again, she could experience that humiliation and shame. It's a huge load for any child to carry. And sure, I had moments of fun, but the wounded inner child was within, and she was dictating my life and my choices. And so as I moved into adulthood, she was running my life. She ran the mates I chose. They were not good. And I married young. I believed in the fairy tale. If I get married, someone will finally love me and see me and kind of wash away my pain. Did not happen because I married a narcissist, which is very, very common for someone who's carrying loads of shame. Because guess what? The narcissist can get away with their narcissism with you. And so that's where the healing process came in layers. In the 7 years I was married to the narcissist, I was able to slowly peel away some layers. But it literally took me 7 years of pretty much hell of being with this person. And I can do a whole nother video of what it's like to live with a narcissist, but I don't want to get off track. So I will do another video on that, living with a narcissist and slowly coming to your truth, that you're worth more than that. You're worth being seen, and you do have a voice, because a narcissist makes you think that you shouldn't be allowed to have a voice or an opinion or a say. So it's important to note that with what happened to me when I was 4, I was not comforted. I did not have any adult in my life, because they didn't know any better, to affirm who I am and that it was not okay that that happened to me. So, and they knew what happened. But back in the day when I grew up, it was like silence. Don't even acknowledge it. So I wasn't seen. My pain wasn't seen. My feelings weren't seen or heard. And remember that, because that's actually the pathway to healing. So had I at 4, it would have dramatically changed my trajectory. To be comforted, to be loved, to be told it wasn't my fault, to be told that wasn't okay what happened to me, and to be held. I grew up in a family that wasn't affectionate or emotionally supportive. So I, as a 4-year-old, had to carry that pain all by myself with no one to express it to. And so I kid you not, every day of my life, I can remember this. I would think about what happened at 4 and shudder. So I was literally keeping it alive, which you do. So just know, if you're out there keeping your pain alive, it's natural, because the template was created. Unless someone, some wisdom, something comes in to interrupt that pathway, interrupt that message, and start a new message, it's going to take precedence. That's why I say the wounded ego within, the wounded inner child, was running my life, my choices. So slowly, some layers were being peeled away. And I did remarry too soon. 2 years after that marriage, I married again to someone who I felt was the opposite. So this other person had the opposite personality, but had his own issues. You know what? I'm just going to share it. I'm not going to give away names. Severe porn addict. But he was good to me for the most part. But the porn addiction, that is a whole nother category. I will talk about that some other time as well. Because for someone like me with shame, and because of what happened to me at 4, I had shame downstairs too. That was just a disaster in a totally different way. I went from my first husband never having sex with me to my second husband porn style, which was horrendous. So, poor choices. When your wounded ego, your inner child within, is making choices for you. So then, again, I'm slowly learning, because I'm a seeker, and I feel like God has had his hand on me the whole time. Things falling into my lap that are just helping me move closer to my truth. I started seeing a counselor. So I want you to know, at the age of 36, was the first time. And it's not even like he asked me about it, but it came forth. That is the Ascended Masters, the divine intervening, because they knew that my divine team knew that need to come out. Because he didn't ask me about it. I just, for some reason, in that counseling session, I remember the room very vividly, the whole thing, speaking forth out loud. 32 years later, what happened to me? And do you know that I was afraid to say it out loud? I was still shameful of it, blaming me 100% for what happened, thinking I'm not worthy to be seen or even to say it out loud. But thank goodness for my divine team, because I was crying hysterically and I squeaked it out to my counselor, who happened to be a man. And I think that was meant to be for me. I needed a male person in my life who did not take advantage of me and who demonstrated loving kindness. I said out loud what happened to me, severely embarrassed. And then for the first time ever, he said, that was not okay. That was not your fault. You did nothing wrong. That should not have happened to you. What they did to you was not good. It hurt you. It harmed you. So again, if you're out there and you've experienced any sort of trauma like that, the first powerful thing was to say it out loud. The second powerful thing was to be affirmed that that wasn't okay. First time I heard it. 32 years late. But the beauty is, I'm here to tell you everything does happen for a reason, and it's okay. And I live in the present moment. So I have so much joy now in the present moment that I'm actually grateful for my past, because I can really understand you, the person who's in shame, who wants to hide, who feels lost and doesn't know who they are. Because when shame takes over, when your inner child takes over running your life, you lose yourself. You're not being your authentic self. The inner child is not who you are. She's the wounded aspect of you. She needs tons of love, but she gets that from your true self, which I like to call your soul self. So that was huge at age 36. Huge layers peeled away. Like, I literally felt like a boulder was taken off my back. A boulder, a big, heavy boulder. I was in awe of how much lighter I felt. But I will tell you that the next 7-8 years were filled with still a lot more healing, phases of healing, phases of growth, pain. Like, it was a lot. And I feel like also I'm blessed with that part of my journey as well, because I understand this struggle, and I'm a teacher type of coach. I'm a lot like Yeshua. Some people call him Jesus. I'm a lot like him in that he was loving and kind and there for his disciples and healer, but he also taught them. And that's what I do. And to me, that teaching is truth that sets you free. So I was meant to wrestle and bring out the teacher within me to help others heal. And which is what I do. I create tons of workbooks. I'm trying to see if I've got one handy. I'll grab them. No, they're over there. Anyway, I've got workbooks. Oh, there, you can see them. There's a few workbooks and books. And when I coach, we can go through them together. And it's just, wow. Tons of truth exploding everywhere. So I haven't gotten to the Mary Magdalene yet. I'm getting to her. So I had found a coach who was more spiritual, and that I was led in that direction. So I started getting coaching from her. And I was really tuning into my intuitive gifts, my wisdom, my abilities to teach. So I think oftentimes she played a role as more like mentor to me and kind of confirming the validity of the gifts that were being come through to me. So again, think of me in my shame. I didn't know I had gifts. I mean, I probably knew I was good at some things, but there's no way I could have stood strong in my gifts back then. And here's the thing too, I didn't have the energetic frequency because shame is a very low frequency. I didn't have the frequency to uphold these gifts. So my frequency was rising and my gifts were really coming through. And so was my confidence. So it was awesome because my mentor was a highly confident in her gifts person. So that was like tons of confirmation. But I remember I was going through this season where I'd wake up and just not feel grounded and not feel capable of going forth. It was tons of work to get up and show up. So the wounded inner child was still there. She wasn't fully heard. Yes, she was heard when I was 36 with the counselor, but there was more she had to say. And I didn't know about inner child work. I didn't. And one morning, I knew I had a session with my mentor. And so I'm a big journaler. I'm journaling like crazy. And I find myself journaling what happened to me when I was 4, the whole thing. So my inner child needed to speak, and she was speaking forth in my journal. And I got to my mentor, and I basically just started telling her, I just don't understand why I wake up so hard to face the day. I think I might have bipolar. That's what I told her, because I felt these tremendous mood swings and just out of control with my emotions and who I was and being able to show up. And she said, Kim, you don't have bipolar. You have PTSD. And I was like, what? I don't know. In my mind, I thought PTSD was people who, experienced the military, going to war, things like that. And she said, no, you have PTSD from what happened when you were 4. And I go, really? I go, you know what's so crazy is this morning, I felt led to write my whole story, my feelings, and everything of what happened to me when I was 4. And she was just listening. And then again, by this time, my intuition has really kicked up, and I call it my spiritual wisdom, my divine knowing. I knew I had to tell her. And I said, I think I'm supposed to tell you what happened to me. And I said, it's pretty bad. Can you handle it? And she said, yes. And I told her, I think I read from my journal and again, to say it out loud to a trusted person is really, really powerful. And so I said it all out loud to her. And she had, I would call it righteous anger. She basically said, I'm pissed. You needed love. You needed comfort. No one stepped up for you. And I'm pissed about it. And that was shocking for me. I had never experienced anything like that before. But you know what she did? She was meant to do that because she opened the door for me to express me being pissed about it. So the inner child within needs to express her feelings that she wasn't able to express when she was 4. So she's sitting there inside of you holding all of these feelings. So in that moment, I said, I feel like she needs to express her anger too. And she said, yeah, that's your inner child. And she said, let me go ahead and guide you. And so she guided me. And she basically guided me to that time so we could be in that moment where then I was able to say how I felt as the 4-year-old. And I let it fly. And I let the anger out. And I basically told everyone around me including my parents, how stupid they were. Now, this is what I want you to hear. It's not that in that moment, sitting there with my mentor, that I personally felt that way, because I absolutely love and adore my parents so much. I've done tons of healing around that. But the inner child within had to get it out. The anger had to be expressed. So here's what I want you to know. If you don't express it, it stays inside, wreaking havoc. She had all those feelings. She had not been heard. I hadn't sat with her and listened to her. So my soul self allowed her to spew what she needed to spew, her anger at what happened to her. So again, a huge layer peeled away that morning. And then I became the biggest advocate for inner child work ever. And I do it with my clients. It's so powerful. It's so amazing. So if you work with me, I help you understand who your soul self is. That's who you truly are. But you have this wounded inner child within. And we let her speak. And there's ways to do that. It's not like the first session we go in on it. We have to build some strength and resilience within you, build up your frequency to be able to do that. So I haven't gotten to Mary Magdalene yet. Here I go. So again, that was massive, right? I don't know how much later. I want to say it was a year later, maybe even 2 years later, where I had had time to really develop this relationship with my inner child. And again, I was going through a season of darkness. And, that's kind of how it goes. Sometimes, I'd spent time with my inner child, but this one particular morning, I felt like I had nothing left. So I'm not recalling what was going on in my life at the time. There was probably other stressors going on. But I felt like I didn't even have the energy to even talk to my inner child and love on her. And I know there's people out there right now that can relate to what I'm saying, where you do not even you don't feel like you have any strength. There's nothing there. You're depleted. And I knew I needed help. I didn't have any sessions planned, but I have this very good friend. I can say his name. His name is Kevin. I feel emotional even thinking about what a dear friend he is. And I had walked him through inner child exercises before. But ever since my inner child exercise, I really nuanced how to do an inner child exercise, so that when I did these inner child exercises with my clients or my friends, when we go back to the past to visit that event, what I knew needed to happen was to invite a special someone to come with for strength and power and help, almost like to hold your hand. Now, I had created that for myself, that I do that with my clients and my friends, but I had never done it for myself. And so again, this is the divine team working with me because they knew I needed this experience for me. Isn't that amazing? Like, I had created it for others, but I hadn't done it for myself. And again, I've grown in my wiseness, my divine knowing, that I knew I needed to do it. So what I want you to know too is I'm able to create things and not do it for myself until I'm literally doing it with another person. Because I was able to call up my friend Kevin and say, would you walk me through an inner child exercise for me? And he's like, sure. So even before we did it, I kind of instructed him like bullet points and what he'll say to me. But I'm in my logical mind as I'm telling him what to say. Okay? So that the moment we closed our eyes and we deep breathed, where I was in that space to receive, then I'm fully in my heart. So I know that seems odd, but I'm able to do that. So I had instructed him that when he gets me in that place where we're deep breathing together, and then we're going to go back in time to visit that event and see what comes up, I told him to ask me if I wanted to bring anyone with me. So again, by this time, I'm connecting to the divine. I have learned how to connect to people who have passed on the other side. So I'm in the groove of knowing what that looks like and feels like for me, because I see, feel, and know all at the same time. So we begin the exercise, and he gets to that place where I'm in my presence, in my heart, and he says, "Who are you taking with you?" And she appeared. It was like, whoosh, she came in. And it was Mary. It was Mary Magdalene. I saw her. She was wearing blue. And she appeared for me like she probably did back in the day. She was really beautiful. And I just knew. I mean, already I knew the healing that was going to come forth. And so she was with me. I saw her. I felt her. And I would call it like a vision. And we went back in time. And what ended up happening was she just held me. And she said to me, "I'm stepping in for you the way Jesus stepped in for me." And I knew what that meant. And she just held me. So again, remember, I felt like I had nothing left in me. And she said, "I got you. I've got you when you feel like you've got nothing left." And she just held me. And I just stayed there, held in her chest, like a mother to her child. And Jesus, Yeshua, was there too. Just like his presence, like behind us, because I feel like we were sitting and she was just holding me, holding my inner child, because I just didn't have anything in me that day. And she just held me. It was one of my most favorite, beautiful experiences of my life. And so I feel so close to Mary and Yeshua. And every time I walk into a healing session, I have my own little ritual I do. But I picture them, I see them, they're with me as I'm helping others heal. I guess you could say I'm paying it forward. And Mary paid it forward with me, because Yeshua was clearly a huge influence and impact in her life. And, there's conjecture of what really happened with the two of them. But I have no doubt that he stepped in for her and helped her heal. And, and the story in the Bible was very real to me, that, the religious leaders wanted to stone Mary Magdalene. And Jesus said, whoever has sinned can cast the first stone. So in my mind, that's what I believed, that Jesus stepped in and helped save her. Now, again, whether that's true or not doesn't really matter, but it was true to me. And so I just knew that she had been saved in some way by Jesus. He had helped her. He had stepped in. And isn't that beautiful? Because sometimes, when we are doing this work, it does feel overwhelming. There's so many feelings and emotions and so much pain. And sometimes I'm just tired. And so that was a beautiful message too for me to take forth in my coaching. So every time I do any sort of inner child exercise, I ask, do you want to invite anybody to come with? Is there an angel that's close to you? Is there a person, an ascended master, Yeshua, Heavenly Father, whatever works for someone? And it's neat when you're in the moment with your trusted coach. You'll know. And that morning I knew it was Mary Magdalene. And she came to me. I felt her. And she's still loving on me. And so now I can offer that to others. So there you have it. Literally almost 30 minutes long. Hope you enjoyed it. I will share more about living with a narcissist and living with a porn addict and how painful that was for someone who has their wounded inner child in charge. But anyway, blessings to you. If you're in pain, reach out. You don't have to go it alone.